Marquez voices concerns over Australian MotoGP, calling it like a rally. Wildlife poses unexpected challenge for Jack Miller. Stay tuned for the full discussion. Jack Miller's Saturday at the 2024 Australian MotoGP Grand Prix was anything but smooth, as he faced not one but two unexpected encounters with wildlife during qualifying and the sprint race, which significantly affected his performance. The day was marked by incidents that disrupted his attempts to secure a better position for Sunday's race. The KTM rider started his day by advancing through Q1 on Saturday morning, but his fortunes took a downturn during Q2. While he was pushing for a stronger qualifying position, an unusual incident occurred. A rabbit collided with his bike, causing damage to the fairing of his RC16. Despite his efforts, Miller was unable to do better than 16th on the grid, a position that set him up for a challenging sprint race. Things didn't improve much during the sprint later in the day. Right at the start of the race, on the opening lap as he navigated through Turn 1, Miller had yet another wildlife encounter, this time with a seagull. The bird flew directly into the front of his bike, causing a gaping hole on the right side of the front fairing. To make matters worse, the seagull's body got lodged between the fairing and the brake lever, affecting the bike's aerodynamics and causing a significant drop in straight-line speed. Despite these complications, the determined Australian rider managed to push forward, gaining positions and climbing up to 8th place. Miller described the race as challenging but remained upbeat about his pace and how the race unfolded. "Saturday could have been better," he reflected afterward. "I got a good start in the sprint despite my poor qualifying position. Going into Turn 1 at the beginning of the race, a seagull flew right into the front of my bike, which was definitely not ideal. I tried to shake it off on the first lap, but I couldn't, so I just focused on the race." He added, "The pace was good and I felt comfortable. The tires were improving lap by lap. We were missing about 10 kilometers per hour in straight-line speed because of the big hole in the front of the bike. But I was still able to make some overtakes, passing both Frankie Morbidelli and Brad Binder. Unfortunately, I lost control at Turn 10 and went down. It wasn't a huge crash, just a slight mistake when I released the brakes, and it slipped away. I'm disappointed it ended that way, but I'm happy with the pace, and I'll try to regroup and give it my best tomorrow." The sprint race turned out to be a rough outing for the entire KTM team. Brad Binder, another KTM factory rider, also faced a difficult race, crashing out in the final stages. Meanwhile, rookie rider Pedro Acosta from the Tech 3 KTM team suffered a severe crash, raising concerns that he might be unfit to participate in the main Grand Prix event on Sunday. Acosta, who had been struggling during the day, only managed to qualify 15th on the grid and couldn't make much progress in the sprint before the crash. Reflecting on his challenging Saturday, Acosta said, "It was a tough day out here on Phillip Island and there's not much to say. We didn't get a lot of dry laps to work on improving the bike's performance, but things weren't looking too bad this morning. The afternoon, however, was difficult. I'm just going to focus on resting and see how I feel tomorrow morning. Hopefully we can turn things around for the main race." The sole KTM rider to finish the sprint was Augusto Fernandez from the Tech 3 squad, who crossed the line in 9th, achieving his best sprint result since the Spanish GP earlier in the season. While the day had its share of setbacks, the team remains hopeful for a better performance in Sunday's main event, as they aim to capitalize on any lessons learned from the sprint's trials and tribulations. Marquez is feeling optimistic about his chances to compete with Jorge Martin in the Australian MotoGP Grand Prix this Sunday, but he admits that it won't be easy if the race becomes more like a solo rally race where riders are spread out across the track. The 8-time world champion had a strong start to the weekend at Phillip Island, finishing at the top of the timesheets during Friday's practice. However, Marquez believes that Martin on the GP24 will likely have an edge over him on Saturday as the teams get more time to analyze data from the practice sessions. Marquez's prediction was spot on. Jorge Martin went on to dominate a challenging qualifying session, securing pole position ahead of Marquez. During the sprint race, Martin was practically untouchable, finishing 1.5 seconds ahead of Marquez, even after easing up on the final lap. Marquez's hopes for a strong finish in the sprint were compromised early on when he made a misjudgment at Turn 1. "I didn't calculate well the way Martin braked," Marquez explained to MotoGP.com. The mistake saw him running wide, which forced him to drop back to 8th position. From there, he had to fight his way back up through the field. "Today, before the race, I told myself, okay, the first lap will be normal and then the race will be easier," Marquez said. But at the very first corner, I made a mistake. I didn't anticipate how aggressively Martin would brake. He was really pushing it, which is how you get the front and rear to settle after the start. The combination of that early error and the strong winds caused Marquez to lose several positions. However, once he settled back into his rhythm, he focused on climbing back up to second place. From that moment, I really concentrated. I knew that if I tried too hard, I might make more mistakes, so I just focused on securing second, he said. When I caught up, I tried to push for a couple of laps, but I saw Martin had a solid response. We'll have another shot tomorrow. Despite his setbacks, Marquez remains confident that he can put up a fight against Martin on Sunday, but he acknowledges that it won't be straightforward. He is particularly concerned about the nature of the race. Maybe I can fight him, maybe I can't, he said when asked if he could challenge Martin for the win. If it turns into a sort of relay race where everyone's riding on their own, he's going to be faster than me. Marquez emphasized that the first lap will be crucial. We need to make sure we get a good start and especially understand the wind conditions and track temperature, he said. Here at Phillip Island, the wind direction changes a lot and that affects how you ride, so we have to adapt. Tyre selection is another major concern for Marquez. While the sprint showed that the soft rear tyre was a suitable choice, he's still unsure about the best approach for the main event. Michelin needs to give us more insights. He said, we need to understand how the tyre is going to wear, especially since there's new asphalt, which can change things. The soft rear tyre worked well in the sprint, he noted, but we need to cut it open and analyze how it wears down. Michelin will have to advise the teams on potential blistering because that could be a real issue. I think it's going to come down to a choice between the soft and medium rear tyres. But it's a critical decision. If the tyre degrades too much, you can easily lose 1 or 2 seconds per lap, and that would make a huge difference in a race like this. Marquez knows it's a fine balance between strategy, tyre choice, and adapting to the conditions on race day, but he's determined to make the most of his opportunity to take on Martin and potentially secure a victory at the iconic Australian track. As race day approaches, Marquez is fully aware of the challenges ahead, but remains optimistic about his chances. He knows that a lot will depend on how well he manages the first lap, adapts to the unpredictable wind conditions, and makes the right tyre choice. With his experience and determination, Marquez is ready to take on Martin in what promises to be a thrilling showdown at Phillip Island. Whether it's a tight head-to-head battle or a strategic race shaped by the elements, Marquez is determined to push to the limit and fight for a spot at the top of the podium. Hey MotoGP fans, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with all the latest action.